Grown Folks Production. In the mix. With the commish, Nate.
All right, happy. That took a long time. I thought I timed that up perfectly, but clearly I did not. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Press Pass Live. Number 232, I think, is what we are on. We are recapping the start of season 106, and then we're going straight to you. That is it. We're going to do some recap, what to look forward to. I got my guy Trey with me, and then we're going to open up a very full OMFL mailbag. Mr. Trey is down with the flu, I think. I don't know what's going on. What's going on with you over there, Trey? Oh, wait. Hold on. I did something, but now I've undone the something just to make sure we didn't have anything funky go. Now, what's going on with you, Trey?
I've got a stuffed up nose, a headache because of said stuffed up nose, and a sore throat, and I just feel like absolute poo. But I'm here.
Yeah, that's tough. It's not even the winter yet, so hopefully you'll get this out of the way early on. That way you don't get sick during the winter. Let's jump right into it, Trey. There's a lot to cover. I'm going to go ahead and let's get over here. Let's do a small cam right here. Let's recap week number 1. There were some crazy games like the Panthers and Falcons, 27-28. Detroit comes out with a 49-20 victory over KC, kind of blowing it out of the water. Detroit's had a up and down season over there, but at least it's had some ups. Mine has been all downs, Trey. Carolina loses to Atlanta 28-27. I watched this game. Carolina was up big, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Atlanta started getting it going. 22 points in the fourth quarter. That's going to sting no matter how you shake it out. Baltimore with a 26-7 win over Houston. Cincinnati squeaking out over his old team, a 3-point victory against the Cleveland Browns, 23-20. The two best friends go at it in a classic game. Jacksonville with a 31-28 win over Orlando. That's right, that's the Indianapolis Colts. They're now in Orlando because he wanted to move them, and it just caused all kinds of shockwaves throughout the league. Tampa Bay with a 34-14 victory over Minnesota. The Saints with a 31-25 victory over Tennessee. Pittsburgh with a 39-14 victory over the 49ers. This was a CPU game, so a small little asterisk, but an asterisk nonetheless. Washington jumped out to a big lead against Arizona. Arizona come roaring back late, but Washington pulls it away 21-17 there at home for the Washington Commanders. Then you got Chicago 24, Green Bay 41. Green Bay 24, Denver losing to his best friend, the Las Vegas Raiders, 28-24. Watch this game. This game was a classic. The Chargers with a 36-26 victory over the Dolphins. Philadelphia falls to the New England Patriots, 23-6. Seattle with a statement, 38-13 against the Rams. 33-28, Dallas comes out on top of his rival, the New York Giants. And then finally, the New York Jets with a 24-14 game. This one also was deep in the third. All of a sudden, Kobe hits a big play off the left side. If you missed any of these highlights, make sure to go catch them on Maniac's Highlight Show. And that is how week 1 wrapped up. Turning it over to Trey for week number 2 recap.
We got, in week 2, the Packers decided they were showing up and showing out, holding the Falcons 3 points while putting up 40 themselves and forcing 5 interceptions on the defensive side. The Seattle Seahawks, in week 2, also decided to show out with a 40-28 win. And they decided that the offense was just going to have a heyday on 3 touchdowns on 3 plays to start the game. That's one way to keep a win intact. The Kansas City Chiefs rebounded from a week 1 collapse in the second half to a shootout versus the Jaguars that ended 34-31. We had Isaiah Pacheco being the star of the show, finding the end zone 3 times in the game. The Miami Dolphins offense decided it was just going to have an explosive heyday, scoring 55 points in a 55-27 win. Tyreek Hill was the star on the offensive side of the ball with 5 catches for 216 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the defense also showed up pretty dang well as well, forcing 6 interceptions. And my last little highlight of the week 2, Matt Townsend and the Jets defense disrupt the Cowboys' pace winning 36-26, forcing 6 sacks, and also holding a dominant run coach to having his number one running back, Tony Pollard, to only 50 yards one day.
Kansas City Chiefs, they might be the most difficult team to go ahead and figure out like whether I should bet on them or not. I never know where to put my money when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's recap week number 3 really quick. You can see Orlando and Baltimore, a great game, 38-28. Orlando comes out on top. Even after a big third quarter by the Baltimore Ravens, it just wasn't quite enough as Orlando comes out on top of that game. They've had a bit of a quarterback controversy trying to figure out who's going to be their guy. Atlanta 34, Detroit 27. This is what happens, I think, sometimes when you play those super late games. You never know what's going to happen, and Atlanta somehow, after totally collapsing against the Packers the week before, comes out with a victory there, playing an import third-string quarterback on this team. Very confusing quarterback situation there in Atlanta. New Orleans falls to the Green Bay Packers 26-28. I missed a 60-yard field goal that just was shanked right and could not overcome that. Jacksonville 30, the Houston Texans 24. Look at the Broncos and Dolphins 31-37. Denver jumped out to a quick 21-7 lead in the first quarter, and then Miami just kept chipping away, brings it into overtime, scores on a touchdown to win that game. And then to close up our week number 3 matchup, we got to look at the Chicago Bears and Kansas City Chiefs. Again, talking about Kansas City, which one's going to show up? The Chicago Bears and Big Hurt, who I now see in the chat. What's up, Big Hurt? He's a lot like me, still trying to figure out his team, still trying to figure out where they are. They fall 37-22. 8 points scored in the fourth quarter that made that a little bit tighter. But when you give up 28 points in the first half, it's really hard to overcome. It's really hard to find any kind of like momentum and rhythm into that. And the Chicago Bears fall to the Kansas City Chiefs in week number 3. What are we looking forward to, though, in week number 4, Trey?
Week number 4, I'm looking forward to the Falcons and Jaguars. The Falcons rebounded from a blowout loss in week 2, came back, got the win in week 3, looking to keep momentum against a very stout team. The Jaguars are looking to keep in first place in the AFC South of the Condors. The Condors have already played, so they need the win to stay in first place. I have the Cardinals and the 49ers. This is Joker's biggest test, getting off to a 1-2 start versus after playing 3 of his 4 NFC East games. This is going to be a big test for him to show up and shine, but it's also the return of D-Money. It's his first game since the OMFL Bowl 105 loss that's actually meaning something for him, so we'll see how he knocks off the rest. And Chiefs and Jets. Shocks is finding his groove after a week 1 second half collapse. It looks to keep the momentum going. And Kobe and his Jets are off to a 3-0 start. He's taken out D-Win in that process, which is one of the league's best. And he wants to try and keep that one game lead over Bill to give him that leverage in the AFC East.
The Seahawks and Giants might also be a really good one, but I didn't like putting any bets on any game. This might have been one of those weeks I was like, can I just skip this week and not make any bets? Let's look at week number 5, doing a little future focus here, because before we get back, we'll be into week number 5. Bears Commanders. This one could be a good one. I feel like Big Hurt is trying to figure his team out. I really do have faith that he's going to figure out how to kind of get that balance that he's looking for, play the defense that we're normally used to seeing there in Chicago. But he's up against a pretty good team there in Washington. Bird has that team rolling. Look, super close games. He's not like blowing anybody out, but he tends to make the plays that you expect for Bird to be able to make with that team. Titans and Condors should be a pretty good one. We've got the quarterback situation a bit more settled there in Orlando. Like to see how that one is going to come out. Giants and Dolphins, and you're talking about a team that is known for his offensive firepower. Man, he likes tight ends and playmaking wide receivers there in New York with Colin, but Massimo is just putting up all kinds of points. Tough game today as he ran into a buzzsaw in Buffalo against Bill and his Bills, but the Dolphins can hang up points on just about anybody. This might be the game that you want to take the over for. Look at a couple of these other games, the ones that really come out, Cowboys and 49ers. Is this the matchup of the year so far? D-Money's been gone. Trey already talked about that. He's coming back this week. Dwayne's just starting to sort of figure out his team, but I feel like Dwayne's got, something stuck in his craw after that loss against the Jets. I feel like he's got something to prove. This could go either way. Is there rust on the 49ers? Do we see some of that come out? What's the line going to be on this game? This could be a really, really fun game that we're going to see in week number 5. And Nate is starting to try to find some rhythm to my life right now. So I want to start calling some of these games. Hopefully this will be on a time that we could call. This would be a really fun game to call. So that's a week look at week number 4 and week number 5. And that's going to be our really only segment that we do today, because there is a large, very large. What's up, Bill and Shocks? See you, appreciate you. There's a very large mailbag for us to get into, Trey. Are you ready to dive headfirst into this? I feel like there's a lot.
We got a month's worth of mailbag to go through. It's going to be fun.
We do. I was out last Monday. I think, it was last Monday, because I was doing some filming. I kept trying to do one at night. And it was like 16-hour days, y'all. I was completely burnt out. And so there's just been a lot going on, but I'm glad that we are back in here. I'm going to cover some of these All Madden questions and take them just for sake of giving people points. But just be noted, we are not on All Madden, as everybody can already assume. Let me turn this off. I hit the wrong button here. Bird says, knowing now that All Madden level does not allow the option to show previous play, dumbest thing, one of the dumbest, top 5 dumbest things that I've ever seen EA do. How does it impact the league's decision to play on this level, which level to play on? It didn't affect mine at all. I felt like we were making a bigger deal out of something that was not a big deal. There's another question here that we'll ask. Should we make both guys stream? I think totally. There's a third question in here we'll cover right now. Do people have powerful internet to stream both? I don't think internet has anything to do with connection and both streaming. I feel like a lot of people, not everybody, like Dwayne, I know, still lives in the country. He's waiting for his fiber. Poor Maniac doesn't have great internet. There's a few guys that just kind of live in the country or whatnot. They don't have the greatest options for internet. Those are minor. I think majority guys have good enough internet where both guys could stream, but it's all mute now because we're not on All Madden, so it doesn't matter. And maybe we'll reapproach the conversation later, but right now it doesn't really need to be. Maniac's got a 2-sided question. Tell me 2 to 3 owners running low-rated teams out to make noise in the first couple of seasons. I'm going to turn this over to you first. Give me 2 or 3 teams that you think are low-rated teams that you think can make some noise this year.
I definitely think Cincy has to be in the topic, taking over a very depleted Steelers that really only has T.J. Watt there. He's built something out of nothing with a very depleted Indianapolis Colts. It's interesting to see so far that, off to a hot start with the Steelers. See if he can keep that rolling. And another one I think is Mr. Maniac. He's got after playing him, I got to see he's putting the puzzle pieces there. He just needs to find that last piece of the puzzle, because obviously there's questions with the quarterback scenario. But I think after our game, he's found his answer there. So it'll be nice to see and make some noise, especially in a very interesting division, NFC South.
I agree with both of those. I throw in 3 quick ones. I'd say Commanders number 1 with Bird. I mean, he's sitting at 2-1, playing tremendous defense right now, only giving up 68 points. The Condors, yes, they have a good Madden quarterback, but that team really was lacking in some specific areas. But he's playing great offense right now, scoring 148 points, having his team at 3-1. And then the last team that I'd also put in there in the same vein as sort of the Falcons is Priest and the Packers, sitting at 2-2. A tough game today against you, but he still battled. You've seen what he did to the Falcons. He's kind of had some hit and miss games, but I feel like overall that defense is really carrying this team, and Jordan Love is playing really good football right now. Same style of question, Trey, but he says two or three owners who have struggled in the past, now with high-rated teams needing to prove something. I don't know that we have that many teams who have high-rated teams that were not like good owners in the past. But yeah, there's not many. Let's go ahead and turn it over to you and see which ones you got.
I think there's only two that you can go to, and it's a questionable if he struggled, that being Shocks with the Chiefs, and the other being Twinkie with the Eagles. I think those are the only two ones where they've got high-rated teams, but they've struggled to stay consistent.
Maybe one more with the Jaguars. He's sitting at 2-1. That team is really, really good this year. Maybe not in the past, but I think it's a bit skewed because, at least for me, when I think of the Jaguars, I think of what Brady did when he went on that run, but he was doing it with not a great out-of-the-box team. And Duvall's got this team going here early, only allowing 86 points, scoring 92. You know, at least early in this season, the Jaguars tend to have things rolling on. Shocks, with the freedom we're allowing owners with playbooks, formations, what are the pros and cons for this change? This is going to be interesting, especially since, Trey's he helps me here on the podcast, and not necessarily, he's not a board member or anything. So I'd love to hear what an owner's perspective is. I'll give mine really quick. I feel like I've already given the case for this a ton of times. I do feel like I'm trying not to rant here and not rant in a negative term, but like kind of just run on thoughts here. But the primary focus is that when I look back to our birthing rights of 2001, 2002, the kind of basic idea around the league was, this is the game. How do we allow the game to play with some basic rules around it to keep funky stuff from happening, like never punting on fourth or, weird glitches inside of the game? How do we keep those from happening? And that evolved through our time. And then out of that evolved this idea of sim and simulating what you see on Sundays. That idea has evolved, but the OMFL, I feel like, ebbs and flows through the evolution. And we've ebbed and flowed of, we find a core set of beliefs, we stick to them, and then as the game changes, we add, it gets out of hand, I trim it down, we add, it gets out of hand, trim down. That is the evolution, the flow of running a league. And I feel like looking back at 2023, 2022, those Maddens, the rule book continued to grow larger and larger, and it started to get really out of hand with percentages. I do feel like this Madden does things way better, and I also think the NFL has changed. And ultimately, you just got to watch football to see everything is bunch, close, closed, 3-4 wide receivers, shotguns, right? And so we have to evolve as well. And evolving is uncomfortable, change is uncomfortable, but the core value was, how do we keep things fair for everybody, but do it in a way where we set owners up for success. And you never set owners up for success when they have literally 400 things to remember and to balance and how many percentage points. And I was just sick of the arguments over one play too many, throws you over the percentage. And I just was over all of it. And it was like, how do we simplify this to allow freedom? And I think we're there. I think it is. You're always going to have people that abuse things. No rule set is ever going to have you not do that. The more rules, though, set up more arguments, more tension, more things to manage. Less rules allow more freedom, more fun, more flexibility. And as things happen, even if they aren't quote unquote against the rules, our governing rule here is don't do anything in excess. And if those things happen, we'll review that and we'll make a decision. And I think I'm trying to be harder on owners just to make the decision, you either fit here or you don't fit. I will openly admit I've kind of gotten a bit of a uncomfortable conversation with an owner in the last 2 weeks because I was just sick of this owner coming to me with just issue, like it was never good enough. Is less over rules that we have right now, it still was too many rules for them. It's just like, yo, you got to make a decision. You either want to play here or you don't. So a little twofold, which is why it connects back to the All Madden conversation, why I did not push for All Madden. It's like the rules were enough. Let's stick for this for now. reevaluate as a season. But in my opinion, early on, I see nothing but the pros way outload the cons. The cons are going to be people are going to abuse things. The pros are now on both sides of the ball. You can combat those abuses in whatever form or fashion you think you need to with your team without the stress of, did I go one too many over? Did I do this to one too many? There's still some rules there that have to guide a few things like tight end throws, but like those rules are super minimum. Shotgun runs inside the 10, that kind of stuff. All right, I've rambled enough. What do you think, Trey?
Yeah, I think the pros are definitely, you're seeing different offenses. It's not everybody using the exact same thing because we're on certain guidelines. So I've just noticed in the 4 games, I've different looks from all 4 teams, which is very nice to see. And then you're getting more of the trick plays coming into the aspect. I've noticed from a few teams. I'm obviously been last season was the last Madden cycle. I was kind of the biggest user of that. So seeing other people now implementing that into their game is very unique to watch. See how everybody else is effectively using it. Some of the cons to that is obviously those weird animations that you can get from closed bunch plays where, you know, somebody gets a free leak and your DBs get tangled up and it just gives them space. That's some of the pros and cons to that of just how bunch is, not being able to line up properly on them. And you're getting a lot more looks when it comes to where a blitz will come from. That's another pro, I guess, not so much a con. And then overall, it's feeling more of a realistic aspect, especially after watching this week's full of games. I saw a lot in the Lions and Chiefs game where there was different formations that weren't so much in the game, but if you look under what we had previously for OMFL guidelines, you'd been stricken with every rule that's against FPR, because a lot of it was shotguns from the Chiefs, and a lot of the 3 wide receiver stuff was coming from under I formation stuff for the Lions, and it's very unique to see that we're getting a different aspect on things.
I'm having to keep moving in the CFM because if you're like idle for a minute, it boots you out of these things. At least it has been for me. So if you keep hearing the noise in the back, it's me having to keep moving around. Bill and Pepper each had a follow-up question to that. Bill's was, do you think there are more explosive offenses in high-scoring games allowed more freedom of formations? And Pepper asked a similar question, but in conjunction with that, do you see more turnovers by the offense without the freedom of calling hot routes or audibles? I personally am not seeing either. So I'm going to show you the numbers real quick. I think they're pretty on par for what we're normally used to seeing right now. You know, they're fairly average. Most of the league is in the hundreds. A lot of them are close to the hundreds. Of course, you have your bottom half. And then looking at the defense, there's a good portion of the league that's playing really, really great defense, allowing under 100 points. I'd say over half the league or close to half the league is averaging under 100 points so far. I think this is pretty on par of what we normally are used to seeing. I'm not seeing any massive swings. And then asking about turnovers in high-scoring games. Well, look at the game scores. Just from this week, we have a 48-30 game. That's against Tim. Sometimes you see that. A 37-7 game, pretty on par for NFL. 27-10 game, a 28-17, a 32-7. Like, these are pretty on par of what we're seeing in the NFL. And then let's look at some stats real quick. I assume we always have a lot of turnovers. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy, but let's look at it together really quick. Passing, interceptions. We're used to seeing this, like, maybe not from Lost, but, he's figuring out his quarterback. Tim, we usually see a lot of interceptions. Look, the Vikings are struggling with a rookie quarterback. We know that Joker doesn't love Murray, but these numbers aren't the worst that I've seen, Priest gets a lot of our hate when it comes to interceptions, even though he's done a much better job of that the last 2 Maddens. But I've seen Priest in the 20s by now sometimes, and we used to see Outlaw pretty high in these numbers. Like, these top 2 or 3 are kind of high, but overall as a league we actually see the numbers the other way. I'm seeing pretty balanced numbers, or even a lot more touchdown higher than interception ratios, especially at the top of the league here. Normally, we're not used to seeing that. So I think because we've taken away these, and we haven't taken away audibles. That's the only thing I'd push back on. They're still there under 3 minutes every quarter. But taking away the hot routes makes people's play calling matter. And now they can't draw up a play. You can't come out there and go, oh, they're blitzing me. I'm going to, do my finagle and move this play and change this play and move this route. It's like, let's just play football. So I think we're actually seeing the opposite. Any thoughts around interceptions, explosive numbers?
I feel like we're getting a lot of high-scoring close games, but you've seen that very frequently happen in the NFL these days. But yeah, I think in terms of that stuff, we're pretty much on par. Obviously, the turnovers are a bit because linebackers and stuff don't have the greatest hands in Madden, and you'll see a lot of the linebackers do those kind of plays in real life. So I think we're actually probably maybe even below in terms of that. But it's also making reads and whatnot. Sometimes you make the wrong read and there's a turnover. And I know for one fact, I made a read. I went to throw the wrong guy, to one guy. I actually hit the wrong button and threw an interception. That stuff can happen. So I feel like the turnovers are on par for what we normally would have.
Kobe, with the changes to offense, which 5 teams will be the best offensively by the numbers? I'm going to put up the current numbers here, but I'm going to give this one to Trey first. Without looking at numbers, if you were just look at the changes, think of the teams, which 5 teams would you have thought would be at the top of the OMFL in offense?
Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, Dallas, Buffalo?
Yeah, I would have said Buffalo. I would have probably put the Bengals in there. I also would have put Miami just because he's such a big play offense. I might have put the Packers in there because I feel like Priest is feast or famine. He's just a big play guy. I would have questioned, what would Love be able to do. I would have considered the Buccaneers just because of the import quarterback that he was bringing over. You, of course, would have needed to be in that conversation. I would not have guessed the Condors, who are up here, and I still am just questioning how, because he's kind of had a quarterback situation. The Cowboys, yes, but from their rushing offense, and you can see that they're up here in the league. The Rams would not have been a team, but offensively, they're up there. The Patriots, I would not have guessed that they're up there. What about defense? Same question, but on the defensive side of the ball.
Dallas would definitely be one of them.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh would be one of them. Commanders would be one of them. Jets would be one of them. And Carolina?
Yeah, that's some good ones. I also would have said Seattle on the offense. I feel like Meek is a very good player. I would have put the Steelers in there. We're looking at the stats. I would have questioned with the hot routes, the audibles change things for him. Clearly, they have not. He's number 2 in the league. The Jets, I would have put up there. I probably would have put the Tennessee Titans up there. I just feel like he knows how to play really good defense. Even though Chicago Big Hurt doesn't have the record he wants, he is playing pretty good defense. He's top 10, I think. What was his 5? He's like 10th, 11th, somewhere in there. I would have said the Ravens. I would have said the Browns. I would have said the Bengals. Those guys are all known for really, really good defense. The one team I would have said that isn't is the one that you said, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he's the bottom half of the league. I think he's like 17th, 18th, somewhere in there when it comes to defense right now. And that's not normal Dwayne football. And I think we will see that continue to change. Cincyberg. He wants to know what import has a shot to win MVP this season. That's a really good question. I'm going to take the first shot at it, and I'm a little skewed because I got to see this guy all the time, but I'm going to go with Mr. Steve Ryder out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The third-year quarterback has got 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Completion percentage is a bit lower than I expected, but he's only been sacked 6 times. He's not turning the ball over. He's already got 897 passing yards. He's got great receivers. He's got a quick tight end. He makes all the right reads. Steve Ryder is playing really good football right now, and I think the quarterback is always going to be the guy that you think has an opportunity to win an MVP. Who would be your import that you think would get an MVP season?
You're going with the quarterback in your division. I'm going with a quarterback on the other conference. And I got to go with Miami's Gordon Hitchens, sorry. 1,200 yards after 4 games. That's averaging 300 yards a game, which is phenomenal. He's got 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, so he's 2 for 1, which is a pretty good ratio to have. He's only been sacked 9 times, and normally we've seen Massimo be pretty heavy in sack totals after 4 weeks. So the fact that he's, it's a little over 2 a week is pretty impressive.
Yep, I would agree with you. Big Hurt, what has been the biggest shock so far in the first couple of weeks? I don't know that I have anything that jumps off the page at me, but what about you, Trey?
It's got to be the Condors. We didn't know how that team would fare coming off of Cincy leaving. And the fact that they're off to a 3-1 start, that's pretty amazing given that team. Other than Jonathan Taylor.
I'm going to go ahead and poo-poo on myself real quick. Just how bad my team is. My team has not competed in almost any game at all. I almost blew it against the Tennessee Titans in week 1. I've got 0 sacks through 4 weeks from my defensive line. It's amazing to me. I guess I would connect it to the league, a bit of a shot about how defensive pressure seems to be hit and miss. And I wouldn't call this a shock, but how annoying user defensive line is. It is still one of the most annoying things that I've ever experienced. And I will never, and I'm not supposed to, but I will never understand those of you who enjoy user defensive line. I don't understand it. Twinkie, who's been the best rookie so far? This is something I feel like you stay on top of way more than I do, but who's the best rookie in your opinion so far?
It's hard for me knowing the imports because I don't know which imports are technically classified as rookies because a lot of them are on players that were 1 year experience, so I don't know. I want to say Gordon Hitchens is a rookie. That'd be my front runner if he is. If not, I'd probably lean towards the running backs in either Bijan Robinson or Jamar Gibbs. They've been the biggest factors I've seen for the 2 teams in terms of rookie breakouts so far. I obviously faced Jackson Smith and Jay, but that's an offensive weapon. Didn't really see too much of him. I haven't really seen any popping stats from other rookies outside of Jordan Hitchens and then obviously the 2 running backs.
Jalen Hyatt, I think, should get mentioned here, a real-life NFL rookie for the Giants. He's got 18 receptions already for 296 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's pretty good there for the New York Giants. But, yeah, you're right. There's not a whole lot. Addison's got 13 for 288 for the Vikings, but he's scoring so little points. It's been a bit of a struggle over there. Marvin Mims Jr., another receiver, he's got 15 for 277. I think it's going to be next year. We're really going to see those rookies start to pop. Bill, he says, I know momentum home field advantage has been turned off in the CFM, but do you think EA has made this a cosmetic feature? I don't. I assume Bill feels like it still has an effect, but playing last night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went up 21-0 against me, I feel like I still had a chance to come back, but it does feel like if that were a momentum game, you have to slow the game down so much that there's a very few smaller percentage of chance to make that comeback because of how you have to really slow the game down. So I don't. I think that it is off and not just a cosmetic. You have any thoughts there, Trey?
I mean, I've gotten out to both my losses. I was down 21-0 and 14-0. Those would pretty much be full momentum shift for the team, and I've come back to make the game either respectively close or win the game. So I definitely don't think that's a cosmetic thing.
Dimbrew, thank you for a positive question in here. He says, although we're only 4 weeks of the cycle, what are some things that you're enjoying about this version of Madden? I'm gonna give it to you because Nate ain't enjoying nothing right now, okay?
I'm definitely enjoying, like, the trick plays are working a lot. Last year, end rounds wouldn't work, counters wouldn't work, screens really wouldn't work. Now, screens are still iffy because the running back will run into a lineman and get stuck there, and then you're poached. I'm liking that the corners are playing a lot better coverage now. In today's game, I even noticed I think it was a defensive end or an outside linebacker. I just know he was rushing me a lot. Played coverage and crossed up and intercepted me on it. I was like, whoa, okay, that's nice to see. Before we wouldn't really get that. And then the overall slider set plus the stamina system we're running with, I definitely think is making you can't just spam one guy, and I think we've eliminated the 80-20 rule because of that. Am I correct?
Yep.
So it's nice that you can have a bell cow essentially, but if you keep running him like that, he's higher risk for injury, higher risk for a fumble.
Yep.
So it's very nice to see that happening. I think I want to say I was playing with Chiefs and Pacheco was just gassed from doing something, and I ended up popping him and he fumbled. And so it's nice to see that if you're using that one guy over and over and over again, you're raising the stakes of costing yourself the football.
I would say I'm not enjoying anything because I'm not. And when you're losing the way I am and not even competing, it's hard to enjoy anything and see the good. I will also say, like, openly, a small percentage of owners here have totally drained any enjoyability for this Madden from me, which is why I went on a bit of a hiatus to catch my breath. It's amazing how quickly people can just chip away at the drive to continue to work as hard as I do for the league. But with that said, I do enjoy the new animations and the interactions that we will see from DBs and wide receivers, and I do enjoy the fatigue. Not to repeat everything that Trey said, but those are things that I do enjoy. Everything else is fine. Like, I don't know that I dislike anything, but I don't know that I love anything. I think it's just fine. It's fine. It's working the way it should be, and that's a good thing, right? It's one thing to be upset about your own personal play and the way that your team is playing. It's another when there's like this really big flaw that just takes the fun out of it. And I don't have any big flaw. I will stand by. I haven't played it since the update because I just play here, but all Madden to me was a much more fluid, enjoyable experience, but that got shot down very, very quickly. Here is Bird's question, and I'm going to put it on the screen right now, but he says, who are the pretenders, good record to start, but you don't think will sustain it, and who are the contenders, good record to start, and you think will sustain it? We'll talk about the 2-1 team only, so anyone 2-1, 3-1, 3-0, whatever the records are going to be. So here are the teams we're going to talk about. I'm going to throw it out there. Commanders at 2-1, Bills at 3-1, Condors at 3-1, Cowboys at 3-1, Jags at 2-1, Chiefs at 2-1, Falcons at 2-1, Steelers, Bengals, Chargers, Bucks, Jets, Seahawks. Those are all undefeated teams this year. Let's just go a little back and forth here. We'll start with a pretender on my side. I hate to do it because people take this stuff so personally. It's not. I just need to see it. I'm going to have to put the Jaguars out there at 2-1. I need to see it. I need to see the momentum continue. I would put them as my first pretender. Who's going to be your first pretender?
I've got to go. You went with one team. It's too dingy and the games have been too close. I'm wondering if he gets up against the higher end talent, if he's going to be able to pull out.
Oh, you broke up, and I think I didn't catch the team.
Oh, the Condors.
Oh, the Condors. Yeah. Another team that's just a head scratcher because I watched some of his games. I see the quarterback situation, but then I look today and I'm like, holy cow, he's put up 148 points and he's 3-1. Because there's no app, which we will talk about, it's harder to keep up with these things. But let's talk about contenders. I'm going to give this one to you first. Who's your contender out of that list?
I've got to say it's got to be the Seahawks. I think he's got enough of a leverage now with the 3-0 record and the San Francisco being 0-3, and he's going to be able to ride the momentum throughout the rest of the season and finally put D-Money in a spot.
I'd have to go to the Steelers, sitting at 3-0, 111 points from that offense, 55 points against. He's playing great defense. He's got his quarterback. We've seen what Cincy Bird can do in the past. The Steelers would be one of my contenders that I think are going to continue this up. Any more pretenders or contenders? Let's talk about them.
As much as I'm giving Maniac the love, I also think pretender status, because it's still off against the higher competition. If he almost blew the lead he had against me. If he goes up against the higher end talent, I just question how he'll be able to manage with things. And obviously, going up against Priest the week before, he also got completely obliterated. So I don't want to say he's a pretender, but he's on that verge of breaking through the pretender list and being a contender. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, what worries me about his team is the 65 points for him. Now, he's got his quarterback settled. He's there. We'll see. That import played really good for him, but 65 points for him and 94 against would kind of put him towards the wrong end of both halves of that part of the league. So they would be a team that I also would wonder about. And then I think my last contender is, we just forget how great Denbrew is sometimes. And he's sitting at 3-0, only allowed 64 points. He scored 102. I think he's got that team figured out, and he's taking over a pretty good team. So I think the Bengals are definitely going to be in that contender. And then the last one would be the Bucs. He's sitting at 4-0. I feel like the NFC South, it feels over already. He's got that thing just rocking and rolling over there in Tampa Bay.
And I'd be ashamed if I didn't throw Kobe in the contenders list.
Of course, but I feel like there's some of those teams, they're always there, right?
Yeah, he's cooking, though, Aaron Rodgers, and that's not his style of quarterback.
No, and I watched Aaron make some crazy throws, both good and bad, I think, in his week 1 game. Let's come back over here to Bird. Last question from Bird, and then one more from Cincy. Are there any early stats that jump out to you and make you take a second look? I'm going to combine this with Cincy's, who says, do we think the sack and interception numbers are good after 3 weeks? I have never in my life understood that question. What does good mean? I think good is so up for debate. There are no such thing as good numbers. Yeah, after a full season, we maybe would pause, but season 1, new game, you're always going to have way more interceptions in our league than you do in the common NFL. And if we adjusted it to where we didn't and they match the NFL, 99.9% of you would be crying about the dropped interceptions, because that's how the real NFL works. Quarterbacks don't throw 20, 30 interceptions, and DBs drop 75% of the interceptions that they could have caught. You guys don't want to see that. You want to see your DBs hold on to them. So the numbers are always going to be skewed. But any early stats that make you pause and second look? I feel like Bird has seen some early stats that he doesn't love. And do you think sack and interception numbers? We've already sort of talked about the interception numbers. A couple of these are sort of high, but they're coming from teams that I think just need time figuring it out. There's nothing, there's not a large majority of them that are crazy, crazy high. And then looking at the sack numbers, Trey Lance has given up a ton, but he's playing the computer because D-Money has not been around, and just kind of going to the individual sack list. These are fine. I don't see anything that's jumping out to me one way or the other, but how about you?
In terms of the secondary reception numbers, I think they're fine. I think this is where. What is everybody doing against the Rams? Deshaun Watson has 1,400 yards and Cooper Kupp has 868 yards.
Yeah.
Does nobody know how to stop Cooper Kupp?
Here's the one that if I had to, gun to my head, pick something, it would be tackles for loss. Kenny Clark with 12, Aaron Donald with 11, TJ Watt with 9. These are high for only 4 games into the season. Some of these teams maybe only 3 games into the season. And I think this is 100% connected. Not saying that these guys only use these players. This is 100%. These numbers are going to be inflated because user defensive line simply is easier. Maybe not consistent game by game easier, but overall, I think it is easier this Madden.
I have my opinions to this, and I want to confirm my suspicions. So Kenny Clark, has the ability. Let's see if my suspicions are correct with these high tackle for loss. Aaron Donald, has the ability. And TJ Watt, right? Is what you mentioned?
Yeah. But I just randomly seen those guys on the top.
All 3 of them have the ability that I hate the most. Inside stuff, because you're not... the minute you hand the ball inside, they just immediately shed the ball. It's annoying.
Yeah. It's crazy annoying. Here's one that I would say I don't like at all. And I equally do like it because it should be a part of the game. But I think we all agree it's too powerful of a point of game. That's kick return touchdowns. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 teams with kick returns. So almost exactly half of the league already has kick return touchdowns. 3 of them already has multiple kick return touchdowns. I don't know if he'll watch the show or if he's even here, but Priest was doing a weird thing with his squib kick. So clearly there's a video out there somewhere. There's no way that Priest just found it because he was hitting it perfect every time. I will give Priest credit. If he would have done it to me all game, something would have been said, but he didn't. He did it for a bit, and then he mixed it up. So I'm fine with you squib kicking to mix it up and not always give it to them, especially in those like intense moments, like late in the game, you just took the lead. You don't want to give it to the kick returner. But that's also why I like it, because now you have to think as a coach strategically, what am I going to do here, right? Am I going to kick it? Am I going to kick it out of bounds? I'm going to squib it, give up 20 yards off the... Like, it is a strategy. I just wish it wasn't as powerful as it is right now. And you're probably not going to hear either one of us super complain about it because Trey has the OMFL record and I was one behind the OMFL record. So we like our kick return touchdowns. And I love that punt return is a thing that you can actually do now. I think we can all admit it is pretty overpowered right now.
Yeah, that's. I don't think we've ever seen that many kick return touchdowns.
No, that's a lot.
Pretty impressive for 4 weeks.
I wish it was a third of that, and I wish the averages were a bit higher, if that makes sense, right? Like, give me the higher averages without as many explosive kick returns. Let's see where those numbers fall at the end of the season. I would assume, though, they're not going to get any better. This is where they are, and they're only going to get worse and worse.
Nate, I just sorted things by kick return average. Would you kindly do that?
I just closed it out. What's the averages?
Well, the highest one he's got return for 94 yards and a touchdown, and he's a left outside linebacker.
I think that was what team is that? Because I remember somebody said this to me in a
Steelers.
DM. Oh, okay, that wasn't it. Somebody else told me that somebody was trying to do the squib kick late in the game to not give the returner, and their fullback or linebacker or somebody scooped it up for a scoop and score. Yeah, it's a bit overpowered, but there's no setting for that. Like there's no real control over that. Maybe it's a tackle situation, We just changed the speed threshold. Hopefully that helps a little bit because it is more even now. I think it's 48. So there's a small minor change between super fast guys and slow guys. So hopefully that helps clean it up a little bit more. But there's no like kick return coverage or coverage slider. You know what I mean? It's just tackle and speed threshold would be the two. And those have such a wider effect on the rest of the game. It's like a minor thing that we just have to see. Trey, close me out, man. It's been a good Monday. We've got almost an hour show here, so I feel like we were in a good point. I've got some closing things that I'll say, but I want to turn it over to you to close us out first.
It's nice that we're getting content out there. I'm noticing a lot of things. I don't think I've seen anything in terms of articles, which I kind of figured would kind of dissipate with not having the website anymore.
There are no articles to begin with. Let's just be honest. There was nobody else making articles anyway that was not named Nate.
There was Slim, I'll tell you. But obviously Maniac producing this almost, I guess, bi-weekly in terms of our week-to-week of men. Not actually bi-weekly, but highlight show. I haven't caught the week 1 and 2, and I finally understand why I had to post for week 3 and 4, so I'll get some highlights in there finally. And obviously we have our Press Fest Live, which we finally brought back after what felt like a month off. But obviously you had your things to go do, so we took a back seat and let things roll out, and here we are. I'm glad to see the content starting to roll out here.
Yeah, me too. On that note, that vein, I will say we did open it up to 1 trade per team that counted. That seemed to get some blood flowing, at least. We are going to give it this week. I really think the app will drop this week. If on Friday night it still has not dropped, then I will look at another plan to opening up another trade if people have them. Again, it's wide open, though, for the trades that don't count. That's open. You can do those. You can do those in game. You can have those conversations. This is just for trades that count because we're doing X Factor abilities and all that has changed the values, and I really, really want that app to be able to keep an eye on that. I do have high hopes that's going to drop this week. They've been putting out updates. They found an issue that everybody's working on it. I do expect it to drop any day now, and usually if it hasn't dropped by, I think Bill posted this in chat the other day, 10 or 11 o'clock Central, then you're probably not going to see it that day. So always be on the lookout that kind of morning, early afternoon portion of your day. And I'll be on top of it. I'm constantly looking for updates, so hopefully that will drop. I love the snapshots. That has been awesome. Again, as my time starts to hit a more like normal flow here, I'm going to start making some backgrounds for your cell phone. So if you want them, we're going to use those snapshots that are being posted to pull images and make some cool custom phone backgrounds. I love the stories that are being told through those snapshots. I would like to see some articles, some previews, some videos, something being posted in the league content. So if you're up for making that, there's a Google Doc. You just make a copy, you write an article, you post the article, bam, we get to see some content. I'd love to see that from some of our other leagues, especially the Deuce, since they're rolling along. But now that we're all rolling, as soon as this app drops, I think we'll see more and more activity and content. It's been really great. Sunday, the chat just exploded, which was fun to see. I don't know if it was exploded for good reasons, but there was definitely some football debates, which was good to see. So I'm excited. I think the app's going to be right here, right now. It's been a really good start to the season. And I just want to see where we go. I'm continuing to keep an eye out on the Mat 10 slider updates. I posted some things about fatigue. So it's really up to you to jump in, take control of your team more than ever, or at least more now today than since especially the beginning of the OMFL in 2001. You are in full control of your team, your play calling, your playbook, everything. And for our friends from the Deuce who are watching this, it's good to see the Deuce full. It's good to see Maniac and his team keeping things going, produce that content. But I would also say earn your keep around here. This is a very established community in the OMFL. There are some hardcore owners that have been here for many, many years, and you have to sort of earn your seat at the table. I think this can be a very inviting group if you are kind and nice and just kind of are active on our content, active in our chats when I stream. I think the guys around here will accept you with loving arms, but equally, if you're not, it can go the other way for you. So I would strongly invite you to come be a part of this group, come be a part of this community, but do it in a way that is respecting of the guys who've been here way before you and have kind of earned their voice here. So I appreciate you guys. Trey, this was fun. I can't wait to bring it back. I'm rethinking through the segments, and here are one of the sections I was going to throw out there. I'd love to have somebody join us next Monday. Maybe not every Monday, but every other Monday, as often as we can. It's so easy to get you in Discord. You can literally do it like a phone call. But I'd love to either do a hot seat, so a hot seat interview like I used to do back in the day of the written format of hot seat, or just take call-ins. So instead of mailbag, would be able to take some call-ins. I think that would be a ton of fun. So if you're up for that, send me a DM. Let me know, hey, I'd do a hot seat. Hey, I'd do a call-in. To do a call-in, you'd have to join the chat and be here for when we open it up for call-ins. But I think it would just be fun and make it feel like more of a sports show. Trey, thanks. Good luck, everybody, in season 106. When we come back next Monday, we're going to have our first power rankings. Both Trey and I am going to reveal the commission power rankings. We'll look at more stats, maybe look and see, by then we'll be close to the halfway mark, which would be kind of crazy, but we'll be getting close and look at some fun stats, open up the mailbag. All of this counts towards your incentive program, so I appreciate you guys. Guys, happy Monday. Love you. Have a great week. We'll see you.
Smash that like and subscribe.